Hi, I'm Lori Byron. I'm the co-host on your show today of Our Planet, Our Health. And I'm a pediatrician who's cared for kids in southeastern Montana for several decades. My husband and co-host Rob Byron is not here today. We frequently have people who are healthcare providers on the show, but sometimes we have people who are doing a lot for human health that wouldn't be classified as a healthcare provider, especially as it relates to climate change and human health. And that's the case today. We have Mike Durglo, who is the climate coordinator at the Confederated Salish-Kootenai Tribes. Yep. And he is well known throughout Indian country and across Montana for the amazing work he's done on climate. He just spent 3 days with National Public Radio staff on his reservation talking about all the good climate work that's going on there. So I'd like to go back to know how this amazing person was created. What were your parents like, and what was your childhood like?
Well, I don't know about amazing person, Lori. I'm just a normal human being. But like Lori said, my name is Mike Durglo. My given name is actually Etchasuisamche. So I like to say Ches Chalcha Pesia Etchasuisamche Louis Quext. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Standing Grizzly Bear. Like you said, my English name is Mike Durglo. I was born and raised on the Flathead Indian Reservation in northwest Montana a long time ago, when the mountains were hills and the bison roamed the prairies by the million. That's what I tell people. But no, I was born on the reservation, lived there all my life. I am the oldest of 6. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters. And my mom and my dad both lived and raised us all on the reservation. On most of our lives we spent in St. Ignatius, which is kind of on the mid-south end of the reservation. So yeah, I've been there all my life.
So what are some of the best things you learned from your parents that guide your life?
Lori, when I was younger, we spent a lot of time with my grandparents, and my grandmother did not speak English at all. Well, I take that back. She had a few choice words that she would say in English. I can't say them on TV, but you kind of know, you get the idea. I think it was really the family dynamics, us, all of us kids being raised there, and it was like every Sunday we'd go up to my grandparents' house and have dinner. But just being part of that, being part of being raised in a cultural way or cultural setting around my grandparents and my uncle and aunts. So yeah, it was. You look back on it though, and it's like, and I've heard this from a lot of people. It's like, we basically grew up on commodities back then, and we were really pretty poor. We didn't know it back then because we always had food. We never were. Had to go hungry because my dad hunted, and my grandfather and my uncles, so we always had food on the table. And like I said, there were 6 of us, or actually 8 with my mom and dad, right? That lived in a house that was less than 900 square feet. So yeah, I think that kind of makes us closer when you live in that kind of a small house. But we fought a lot too. Yeah.
So what was your relation with the natural world, and what were you taught about the earth growing up?
Yeah, I think, ever since I can remember, my dad, my uncles, my grandfather always told us, don't take more than you need. Use what you take and don't waste anything. And really, you have to honor the animal that you take. So basically reciprocity. Take only what you need, and then give thanks for what you have, and don't waste what you take. Yeah.
Pretty wise people.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to go away to college.
No, actually, I graduated from St. Ignatius High School in 1979, giving my age away a little bit. And I didn't have the desire to go to college at that time. I actually went to the police academy in Brigham City, Utah. 2 weeks after I graduated from high school, I was in the police academy in Brigham City, Utah. I went home and I was a tribal cop for a year. Gosh, I can't remember, all back that far, but I know I worked as a tribal cop, and then I think I went and became a wildland firefighter for a few years, and then I was hired as a game warden, a tribal game warden, and I did that for I think 13 or 14 years, and then I had a desire, or I don't know, I call it my crazy time. I had this idea that I wanted to be a politician. I guess I didn't think of it that way. I wanted to be on the tribal council. I wanted to make some changes, and I wanted to make a difference. So I ran for tribal council. I think it took me maybe 3 tries to finally get on council. I spent 1 term on tribal council, which is 4 years, 1996 to 1999, and decided that I don't want to be a politician. That's not what I want to do. So in 1999, which is exactly 20 years from the time I graduated from high school, 1999, I decided I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get a degree. So I went to Salish-Kootenai College. There I could not qualify. I did not qualify for any kind of like grants, Pell Grants or anything. So I had to rely on student loans. I had a family, I had a house, I had a car, and it was tough going back to school after 20 years out of from being out of school. And I went into the environmental science program, which it's, at first I had to take dummy math, we called it, general math. But then I had to take trigonometry, calculus, and stats and all those things, which was really tough. When I talk to some of the kids that we have on the reservation, I actually say that when I went into the registrar's office at Salish-Kootenai College with my high school transcripts, I was ashamed. I went in there with my head down because of my grades. They were not good. My high school grades were not good. But I tell people, especially the kids, to do your best. And I know it's like, for me, I was in athletics, and I'm sorry, I have a cold. So, football player, wrestler, maybe, I don't know, maybe chase girls once in a while, but so it took a lot of my time, and didn't have good grades. So when I started Salish-Kootenai College, I think, it was a whole different perspective after 20 years out of school. I spent more time in the math and science lab than I did in class because I wanted to learn about what I was learning. I wanted to know what I was learning, I guess. So I toughed it out for 2 years. I think I actually made it on the dean's list with a 4.0 GPA a couple times during that time. And then I told my wife that, I can't do this. I'll get my associates and then I got to go back to work. So I was about ready to get my associates. The registrar came and talked to me, and she said, "Mike, I want to help you put in for this grant." or it's a scholarship, not a grant. So I went to her office. She helped me fill out the scholarship forms, and I got it. I got the scholarship, and I can't remember what was it, like the Picard scholarship or something, but it paid for my whole second 2 years, full ride scholarship, and that's what got me through college. Then I graduated. I think, you can't hold me to this, but I think I graduated with like a 3.65 GPA. It was like the whole mindset. It was like, I'm here to learn.
Yeah. And
after each quarter, after all of our finals were in and all that stuff, I would bring my instructor a gift, because I would just say, you know what? You gave me a gift of your knowledge. Here's a gift from me to you. Before I got my grade, so I wasn't bribing them. But that's just how I felt about, getting my education. Right after that, so that was 2002, I was able to work part-time as a water quality technician. So I was going to school full-time, working part-time, doing water quality samples on the reservation, all over the different streams and lakes. From there, after I got my degree, a position came open in wetlands. I applied for that. So I got the job as a wetland conservation coordinator. Worked in that position for a few years, and then another job came open as the water quality regulatory specialist. Put in for that, I got that. And then after a couple of years there, and this is all within the Natural Resources Department for the tribe, and then the environmental director position came open, and I got that. So that was in, oh my gosh, I don't know. But it was during that time that I started working on climate change. That was in 2012 when we started our climate change planning. And we were one of the first tribes in the United States to do that.
Yeah.
I think the Swinomish, which is a coastal tribe, had completed theirs, I think, in 2009. And theirs focused on sea level rise for them. They're like on a little island. And then the Nez Perce were working on theirs when I started to work on ours. 2012. I finished that, or we finished it in 2013. Since then, I've helped a lot of tribes work on their plans, and just finished updating our plan for the third time, I think. So that will be available. It's actually available online at csktclimate.org.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, did you create the position of climate coordinator? How did that come to be?
Well, kinda. It actually, I don't know, for a lot of people, a lot of tribes, a lot of different organizations, I think you wear multiple hats. Just because of lack of funding or lack of capacity, you end up wearing 2 or 3 hats to get the job done. In my position as the environmental director, I was like environmental director / climate coordinator. And then I went in, like I shared with you earlier, I did that for several years. And then my dad actually was the head of the Tribal Historic Preservation Department. And when he passed in 2016, I think, I decided to put in for his job in Tribal Historic Preservation. So I did, and it was kind of like when I ran for council. I put in for it, they hired somebody else. That person got fired, they re-advertised, I put in it again, they hired somebody else. That person left for whatever reason. Third time I put in, I finally got that job. So I was really, I don't know, fortunate, blessed, because I was in my dad's old job in my dad's old office, and I was say, you know, if I feel a tap on my shoulder, I know that my dad's with me and helping me along the way, or I'm doing something wrong. One or the other. But my dad really was very supportive in our whole climate work. From the very first climate strategy that we developed, my dad, I was able to interview, or I shouldn't say that because I got in trouble. One of the elders said, Mike, if you ever come to my door and ask me to interview, I'll say, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. They said, she said, ask for a recorded visit. So that's not, I call them recorded visits. But I was able to do 8 visits with the elders during that first process. Right now, today, we only have one of those elders left. Mm. So that was a big part. My dad was a big part of that. So my dad was one of the elders that I had a recorded visit with during that process.
So earlier today, you told the great story of how we met and how you started doing this amazing work on air quality on the reservation, probably more work and than anybody has done anywhere in Montana related to air quality. Let's hear your story.
Yeah, Lori. Do you remember what year that was? I can't remember. I'm trying to think. I think it was 2015 or no. It was only 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was, anyway, we try to have a Earth Day event on the reservation every year, and we've been doing it for, I think, 5 years now. And a couple years ago, Lori attended that event, and I remember that morning leaving my house, which is about 8 miles from my office, at the base of the Mission Mountains, and I could not see the mountains that morning because there was so much smoke. And when I got there, I was thinking, wow, I hope my grandson is not out practicing football in that smoke. As he was, they were having their practice, they were having their 2-a-days or their double practices, and I shared that with the people that were there, including Lori. And was maybe a couple weeks later, Lori called and said, hey, would you be interested in putting up some purple air monitors and flags at some of the schools on the reservation? And I said, yes, let's do that. Actually, I didn't really know about the purple air monitors that much at the time. But for me, it was like, absolutely. Let's let's raise awareness. Let's get the monitors up so people know what's going on. I mean, we could tell that it was not a good air day, but by looking at the mountains. If you can't see the mountains, it's not good. Probably should stay indoors. But now we've learned that sometimes indoors is not that good either. So we're trying to really help the community in developing clean air centers at some of the health centers and fitness centers on the reservation, where people know that the air is clean in the building. That was 2 or 3 years ago. Since then, we have deployed 45 or 47 more purple air monitors around the whole reservation. I've got them at all the fitness centers, all the schools, well, not all, but several tribal buildings like tribal council chambers. And the hope and the plan is to develop more clean air centers around the whole reservation and put up more purple air monitors, especially like in the elder centers and in the Head Start buildings, so for the kids. Yeah.
So what's your hope with the purple air monitors, with the flags on your reservation?
I think it's all about raising awareness, letting people know that even though, like I said, if you go outside, you can't see the mountains, you know the air is bad. But I don't know if people really think about how bad, how does that affect me. I know that people with asthma or COPD or whatever, they know that because they're suffering all the time when that happens. But for those of us who don't have those illnesses or whatever, we just go about our business every day. And you know, it does it does have an impact on us, on our health. And I really believe that my dad passed because of the air. I think that was in 2016. We had such bad air quality that summer. Mm-hmm. And you know, it sure didn't help him. So that's my plan, my hope, my goal.
Yeah.
You know, putting up the monitors and then taking action. You know, you can't just put up a monitor and say, "Oh, we're good to go." We know how the air is. You have to be able to provide either HEP filters or some kind of a filtration system for the people that can't get out of the house. And like I said earlier too, it's like realizing that your air in your building or your house is not good, or is even sometimes worse than it is outside. I think that's really going to be a big game changer for the tribal council and the leadership on the reservation.
Yeah. So much of your work, it seems like, focuses on the youth, on the future, and so tell us a little bit about what you've been able to do with the kids on where you live.
I don't know, did I tell you about the Eagles program already? Did I mention that?
Well, but not these
people. Okay. So I think it was around that same time, 2015, 2016, that my brother and I were talking one evening and really just said, how can we get the kids more involved in what we're doing? And so we came up with this acronym, and it's EAGLES, Environmental Advocates for Global and Local Ecological Sustainability. And so what I did was I put in for I think I got, you know what, I can't remember, so I'm not going to say where I got the funding to start that. I know at one point I got funding from BIA, the Youth Climate Initiative money, and so what I did was I developed a brochure, and on that brochure I had recycling, I had community garden, I had a teepee, so like a storytelling place for the kids to go, and also, if I remember, like a dry meat rack. Oh, and a canning. I wanted to include a canning so that we could teach the kids how to can fruits and stuff. So with that brochure, I went to the schools and I bought pizza. And you know what happens when you walk down the hall in a school with like 10 pizzas, and pretty soon here comes all the kids behind you. So we went in, of course I made arrangements with their teachers first, right? I didn't just walk in with pizzas. We went in to the classroom and I said, my name is Mike Durglo, I have some ideas and I have some money and I have pizza, but I want this to be yours. So what the kids, most of the kids did at the time was to do needs assessments in the schools to see how many recycle bins that they needed in each classroom. So then we started the recycle program. I ended up buying 7 enclosed cargo trailers and put them at the school so the kids could put all the recycle stuff in the cargo trailers, because I was like, now how am I going to get the recycle stuff from the school to the transfer station, which is in Pablo? So I bought these cargo trailers, set those up at the school. The kids put all the recycled stuff in the trailers, and then maybe weekly I would go pick up the trailer and bring it up to the transfer station, and we'd empty it up there. But what's really cool, it kind of turned into a competition with the kids, right? The Arlie kids So what I do when I bring the trailer up to the transfer station, you have to go up on a scale. So then when you leave, you know how many pounds of recycled stuff you had. So what I do, I take a picture of that, send it to all the kids in the schools, send it to all the Eagles programs, and the RLE kids would be like, how did the mission kids trailer weigh 1,200 pounds and ours only weighed 600 or whatever? You know, I'm like, well, you see how they stacked everything up? So my daughter was kind of the lead Eagle in mission, and she would be very meticulous about stacking all the cardboard, all of the aluminum, all the paper, which made it a lot easier to empty rather than everything just going in. So RLE would just throw it all in there, not have to go through everything. So then after that, the RLE kids started doing that. So then their trailers started weighing more. and there's a program that Montana has. It's called Smart Schools Montana. And that first year that I think RLE, we started that, RLE got the Smart School Award for recycling. So what was really cool, the governor came to RLE school with a big check, and we called an assembly. So they brought, all the kids are in the gym, and with the governor out there in the middle and all the Eagles kids, and I'm like, now who wants to be an Eagle? That was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we could talk for hours, or I could listen for hours for sure, but they're not going to allow us that much time. So a lot of people that might listen to this television show feel like climate change is helpless, feel that they are too small, too insignificant to make a difference. So in closing, what would you say to those people that feel that way? And grown-ups and kids.
How much time we have?
2 minutes.
Okay.
One and a half.
One of the big things that we've worked on, and you can get the book at Nebraska Press, but it's called Biocultural Restoration of White Bark Pine. That might be another story for another time. Biocultural Restoration of White Bark Pine on the Flathead Indian Reservation. And if you don't know what white bark pine is, look it up. And what I say, because I was the lead author in the book, is that to be strong, be resilient, and be a plus tree. So you'll have to look up what a plus tree is.
Okay.
For the next episode.
That sounds like a good homework assignment for me.
Yep. Or just come up and visit, and I'll take you out, and we can hug a plus tree.
That sounds good too. You can also go to c2h2.org and watch the video called 7 Generations, in which Mike is featured, which talks about the White Bark Pine Project, which is very impressive, like all the other work you've done up there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.